For years, FromSoftware's games have made us feel isolated and alone. And that's not just because we're in our rooms dying to the same boss over and over again. Their games capture the feeling of being alone in a world where you can trust nobody. So what's with the sudden shift in direction with games like Elden Ring, Nightreign and The Duskbloods on the horizon? Is FromSoft becoming a multiplayer-first company? Elden Ring Nightreign is just a week away, and it looks fantastic. It manages to take the world and mechanics of Elden Ring and translate them into a completely different cooperative roguelike experience. This is FromSoftware's first attempt at translating the Soulsborne formula into a standalone multiplayer experience, and we were all excited to see how it would work. But then The Duskbloods was announced. While it has a PvPvE focus instead of co-op, it's a similar idea. It looks like it takes the elements of the Soulsborne franchise that we all know and love and, once again, translates them into a multiplayer context. And to clarify, I think it looks awesome. I think they both look awesome. But it's interesting to see such a major shift in focus for the company that has given us so many great single-player experiences. Miyazaki's clearly stated that they still plan on delivering those single-player games, but they clearly have an additional focus. What is FromSoft's deal with multiplayer games? Before we get too far into the discussion, I think it's important to mention that FromSoft is no stranger to including multiplayer elements in their games. Even in the original Demon's Souls, there were a lot of the FromSoft multiplayer elements that we know today, even if it wasn't perfect. No hate to Demon's Souls, but when I was trying to platinum the PS5 version, figuring out how the systems worked was almost as confusing as figuring out the lore. You could summon and invade other players, as well as see their ghosts, bloodstains, and messages that we're all so familiar with. These features have appeared in every entry in the series since then, besides Sekiro, which tells us that multiplayer has always been intended as an aspect of the Soulsborne experience. The multiplayer aspects of these games have also gone through many refinements over the years. For example, Bloodborne introduced passwords, which allowed you to easily connect with your friends. Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring introduced ways to be summoned as a defender for fellow players against invasions. The concept of arenas and coliseums has been messed with many times over the years. FromSoft has continued to develop and improve the multiplayer experience in these games as they see it as a core part of the franchise. With all that said, it makes sense that they would want to branch out into more specifically focused multiplayer games to continue to experiment with the multiplayer experience. These two games will give them plenty of opportunity to try new interesting ideas that will let them refine the concept even further. For example, Nightreign allows players to have a full experience together from start to finish, rather than the fragmented experiences that summoning allows, like getting booted right after you help someone with a boss. If fans see this as a success, it could lead to far more cohesive multiplayer experiences in mainline Soulsborne games, kinda like what we see in the Elden Ring seamless co-op mod. It's also pretty clear that the directors of these games are just interested in the idea of a change of pace. In an interview with IGN, Junya Ishizaki, the director of Nightreign, stated the following: "We've always been seen as a company that makes these Souls-likes or this kind of traditional formula of Souls-like games, and so I saw this as an opportunity to do something different, to challenge both myself and the company to build something new while still using what we've cultivated with our previous titles. Also, personally, I enjoy these co-op multiplayer experiences, and I wanted to make something that was very much focused on that with Nightreign." A similar sentiment was echoed by the one and only Miyazaki when he was interviewed by Nintendo about the Duskbloods. "I've always found the PvPvE structure very interesting. It allows for a broad range of game design ideas while also letting us leverage our experience of designing challenging enemy encounters." Both producers are basically saying the same thing. FromSoft has a well-established history of making great Soulsborne games, and they aren't just about to throw that away with their new games. But as a creative studio, they always want to try new things. Just because they're the Soulsborne crew doesn't mean they have to stick to the same exact formula every single time. In fact, it's probably a good thing that they're branching out. While FromSoft has never had this problem due to their continued high quality and level of innovation, many studios have experienced backlash for basically making the same game over and over. Think about Call of Duty, Ubisoft games, or pick your poison with just about any sports title. Again, it is not as extreme a case with FromSoft as it is with these other franchises because almost every game they make is a Game of the Year contender. Hell, their DLC is a Game of the Year contender. But having a chance to try something totally new, even within the Soulsborne format, is a great opportunity for the devs to avoid this sort of fatigue. And maybe it'll even get people to stop complaining about roll slop. It also just seems to be a fact of the gaming industry at this point. The single-player gaming companies are going to try some form of strictly multiplayer game at some point. Grand Theft Auto Online is the obvious example, but it's not the only one. Bethesda had Fallout 76, Rocksteady had Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and it was even leaked that Insomniac was at some point planning to make a multiplayer mode in Spider-Man 2. These games obviously have their problems, some more than others, but it just makes sense that studios will have the desire to branch out and try something new with their franchises. Or, just make a terrible cash grab that nobody likes. But unlike most of those games, Nightreign and The Duskbloods are not going to be live service titles, so we can probably trust FromSoft with these. So the ultimate question, will it work? Will the fully multiplayer format translate well to the Soulsborne formula? And, as with any question worth answering, it's complicated. On one hand, these games might be super valuable for FromSoftware's future Soulsborne development. If they see things that fans really like in these games, you can rest assured that they will be in future games. If things fall more flat, they'll know to avoid them in the future. These games also just already have such a strong community, and multiplayer games can be a super valuable tool to really take advantage of that and create a special experience for the fans. However, there are definitely drawbacks as well. With any FromSoft game, there's the expectations that come with being a FromSoft game. Fans essentially expect perfection. After all, how could you not after their current streak? Therefore, fans may be pretty disappointed by the concept of a multiplayer title no matter what. This could be pretty clearly seen when fans reacted to the announcement of the Duskbloods. People freaked out when the game was announced and said it was the second coming of Bloodborne. But as soon as more information about the PvPvE format came out, people did lose some interest. Fans that are looking for that classic Soulsborne experience may just not be as interested in these games, and that's totally fair. I can certainly say for myself that, while I'm still totally getting both of these games, it doesn't feel the same as a brand new mainline Soulsborne. It just doesn't, and I think FromSoft knows that. But at the end of the day, I honestly think it's a good thing. I think we should know at this point that FromSoft can basically be 100% trusted to make whatever they want. They don't miss, and this new angle could give us some super special experiences. And again, it's not like we're not getting any more single-player Soulsborne games. Miyazaki specifically said that their focus has not shifted. I see the fact that they are two so close together as more of a coincidence than anything else. They had all of the Elden Ring assets and wanted the opportunity to use them one more time before moving on to a new game. And with the Duskbloods, Nintendo probably just gave Miyazaki a blank check to do whatever he wanted with, and he chose a more experimental game that he was passionate about rather than a big Soulsborne masterpiece that could go down the console-locked route of Bloodborne or Demon's Souls. He's walked that road before. So, even if FromSoftware built their brand on making us angry in a lonely and isolated world, these games might prove that they're just as good at making us angry in a slightly less lonely and isolated world with your friends. But hey, we're gonna know for sure just next week. This could age like milk and Nightreign could be absolutely terrible, but I have my doubts. But let me know in the comment section. Do you think these games are good ideas? Are you going to give them a shot? Or if you're watching this in the future, what are your thoughts on the games? I'm a new channel, and this is my very first video. It would mean the world if you can subscribe and leave a like to let me know that you like this video and want to see more. I'm really looking forward to making more content and seeing where we can take this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.